We've just concluded the last weekend of group play in the 2023 Great Push. It was an action-packed final day, and if you haven't watched it already, you can check out the VOD on this channel. My name is Dratnos, and today we're going to take a look at how Echo managed to win the group by being the only team to complete a +30 Tyrannical Neltharion's Lair. There's a bit over 30% count available at the start of the dungeon, and Echo want all of it. But their tank is not the Guardian Druid that you might have grown used to seeing over the past few weeks of Mythic Plus. Naowh has to find a way to survive this pull on a Protection Warrior, which they'll get incredible value out of later in the dungeon, but on pulls like this, it raises the difficulty immensely. The scariest part of the pull are every time the Vile Shard Hulk casts Piercing Shards, which does massive magic damage up front and leaves behind a dot that is very lethal to many tanks, but especially warriors. Naowh uses Spell Block to mitigate this damage to the best of his ability, but it only lasts for 30 seconds, so they need to kill the pack quickly. Luckily, just after Spell Block expires, the Hulk dies and the big danger passes. While Echo clean up the remaining enemies, Zaelia heads forward to activate the boss, a process which is triggered by jumping down into the arena and takes a solid 30 seconds. On +30 Tyrannical, Rokmora takes a long time, and requires a great deal of patience and discipline to make sure that the skitters are killed before the Shatter cast goes off. This reduces the damage it deals, but even at minimum damage, the Shatter is still lethal enough that defensives need to get carefully rotated by the team. Rokmora finally goes down 7 minutes and 38 seconds into the run, which is a little slower than the other teams that were able to finish the first boss. Echo, however, have a few tricks up their sleeve to shave time off the remainder of the dungeon. The pull immediately after Rokmora is a very, very dangerous one, featuring a massive amount of Drogbar, including 4 breakers, which each cast Avalanche, causing the ranged players to have to either move instantly or die. This is another pull with a very high degree of tank danger, and other teams that attempted the +30 Neltharion's Lair this weekend largely stayed away from it. But Echo managed to pull it off and started building up a time advantage that they would need for later boss fights. After skipping a few more enemies with Mind Soothe, Echo engaged the second and final Hulk of their run. This is again hugely dangerous to any tank, but especially the warrior, but sometimes DPS offensive cooldowns are the best tank defenses, as Echo once again were able to kill the Hulk before Naowh ran out of buttons to survive. Ularogg Cragshaper is the first of 3 big reasons to play a prot warrior in Nelth's Lair. He deals massive damage with Sunder, but that damage can be reflected back, which massively speeds up the fight and makes your tank way safer. The rest of the fight is about technical execution and damage optimization. The Strike of the Mountain will always target ranged players if there are at least 3 players at range, so everyone on Echo is careful to be in the right spot and is ready to move when the cast finishes. Bellow of the Deep summons 2 totems that they want to cleave down, but the first one always spawns on the boss's left, and the second one always spawns on his right, so Naowh spins the boss 90 degrees between the casts to get them nice and stacked up. Using their second Bloodlust of the dungeon on this fight, they're able to just barely deal enough damage to kill the boss before an extra intermission, likely saving their timer. Up next is another massive pull that other teams generally avoided. Echo grabbed 4 angry Nashers and then run all the way into the next boss room. This pull includes 2 Grub Masters, each of which periodically spawn adds that need to be CC'd. With this lethal pull handled, Echo have again gained some extra time, but Naraxas has ended many runs for other teams over the course of the Great Push. Echo pulled the worm and have 2 world markers set up to help them plan where to drop their pools. These positions are great, and if you always drop pools here, you'll hit every ad early enough in their movement that they'll basically die to the dot before ever reaching the boss, which means you won't need to swap any damage onto them. This is another boss where Spell Reflect gets huge value. The boss's Toxic Wretch cast can be reflected, and unlike the other reflects in this dungeon, you can easily and safely do this as a DPS warrior, not just a prot warrior. Armed with this extra damage, Echo killed Naraxas off with 9 minutes left in their dungeon timer. Before they can fight the last boss, they do need to get 15% more count, which they do by pulling 4 breakers, 1 Dominator atop its Scorpion, and a Trapper, which they polymorph to deal with later. They're used to dealing with this many avalanche dodges already, But the extra danger of this pull is the massive unavoidable group damage from the Dominator, which they can't afford to bloodlust since they need it for the boss. After they reach 100% count, they have 6.5 minutes left to deal with the last boss, and they'll need almost all of it on plus 30 Tyrannical. The pull begins with Gingi grabbing the other Dominator to get in combat, then Naowh tagging Dargrul, and then Gingi hitting invisibility to drop combat with the Dominator. This is important because if the Dominator isn't in combat when Dargrul gets pulled, it'll automatically get added into the fight, and Echo does not want that. Dargrul is a nasty fight with a sequence of ad spawns that get increasingly deadly as the fight goes on. The first ad of the fight is spawned quickly, and Echo are able to kill it without committing any major cooldowns. In the meantime, Naowh is again making huge use of spell reflection, this time against Dargrul's Molten Crash, dealing huge damage to the boss. The second ad spawns with a little less time before the next magma wave, so Echo use their 2-minute cooldowns to help kill it quickly. The third ad is sketchier, and its footsteps nearly kill Echo, but they're able to finish it off just in time to be safe for the next wave. The fourth ad is the part that wiped last minute, and has been the bane of many teams on the live servers pushing this keystone on Tyrannical weeks. This ad spawns so late into the boss's ability cycle that you sometimes don't even get a third set of spikes before the magma wave, which means you'll have to be able to kill it with only one stun. Echo have an ace up their sleeve, however, and send their Bloodlust with all of their cooldowns here to eliminate it before it can stand back up and destroy their safe spot. After the fourth magma wave, we enter relatively uncharted territory, and the rarely seen fifth ad spawns. This one is late enough into the ability sequence, and the boss is low enough that it can actually be ignored, which is what Echo do, focusing on the boss and barely getting over the finish line. After spending most of the weekend in second place, this run propelled Echo into first and earned them a spot in the Great Push Global Finals. Be sure to tune into that starting on August 18th, and also make sure to subscribe to this channel for more WoW content. Good luck in your dungeons, and thanks for watching.